Hi YouTube, it's Roxanne here from Rox's Cards and Crafts, admin for Cricut Expression Group, and this is mainly based for the older legacy Cricut. I'm going to talk about sizing. Now the sizing, there's two different things. What you need to do, and let's do Cricut Plantain School Book. If you go to the beginning of the book, you've got here a J is circled. So what it's saying is the character shown in red is the key height character. It's the tallest letter within this particular font set. And they vary from cartridge to cartridge, by the way. All other characters will cut out in proportion to this letter unless real dial size is pressed. So I want to talk about normal size and real dial size. So years ago, cutting out these sizes was for my visual only. Now, because you're using the Cricut Expression with cartridges, there is no software for you to visibly see your cartridges. Even if you did use Shortcuts a lot 6, you still cannot see the images on those cartridges, okay? So having said that, I want to talk about sizing. As I said, I'm going to use Plantain School Book, and on page 5 of that particular handbook, the character shown in the red is the key height character, the tallest letter within the font group. So that's the J. So I cut this J at 1.5, and that actually measures 1.5. However, notice that the is and the tallest is not at 1.5. So I did draw a line there. So the line there and the line there is a 1.5 space. But the J is the tallest, so it will cut, the rest of it will cut proportionate to the J. So I'm going to take a moment here to explain about this proportionate business. It really is, sizing with just using the Cricuts now can be very, very confusing. And I've put in a bit of research over the last few days just so that I can bring to you the best information that I can that's out there. And because we've all been neglected with the legacy machines, there is not a great deal of information. Nobody really honed in on explaining what the size meant. I do explain at the beginning of this lesson about the tallest letter within a font set, and this is only for the fonts. We talk about being proportionate. So in the case of the Plantain School Book, the capital J is the tallest letter within that font set, and all the other ones are sized proportionately to that J. Now, what does proportion actually mean? It's as if one quantity increases, so let's make sure these are all together so you can see. As one quantity increases, the other quantities also increase at the same rate. So if I moved this, they all move proportionate together. So I'll take that back to J being at the 4 inches. Now, it's close enough. When you put real dial size on, you are actually taking away the J's power for it to make everything proportionate to itself. So imagine that they are now freed up from the J. Now I'm going to ungroup these letters. They've served their purpose. So this one, when it's in proportion to the 4-inch high, is only about 2 inches high. But when you hit real dial size, you can actually make that 4 inches high. But it looks out of proportion to the J. So really, I don't know what its purpose is, but that's the difference. So text aside, so we've dealt with the fonts, your real dial size and proportionate to the letter. But being in proportion to the letter, I don't think it carries on with the images. I will just get rid of these now, but I'll keep this up. Now when we look at our handbook, and you naturally hold it in landscape position so that when you're turning the pages it goes from up and down, not from left to right. It's actually going against how the expression by default actually cuts. The expression by default cuts from top to bottom, so it will cut vertically, which means for you to be able to see in landscape, which is it's weird, it's all back to front on the machine, so I'll try and explain it as best I can. When we look at the handbook, we're holding the handbook in landscape position, like horizontally. But when it cuts, it's actually cutting vertically down, and it starts off from the top right hand side and goes down and cuts to the bottom. And then if it starts a new column, it will start a new column till it gets all the way to the left hand side. You can, however, cut so that it goes from left to right, unlike the newer machines that start up at the right hand side. If we cut in portrait, it will take the blade over to the left hand side and cut from left to right. Sorry about the confusion, but once again, I didn't invent the machine. So I would like to teach you, moving forward, how to use this machine as it was intended by the default, cutting in the vertical. So starting up at the right hand side. As we get a bit better at it, we might start learning to cut with the portrait on, but I just got so used to, over the years, cutting with it vertically that it doesn't matter, and then just turning the handbook. With the Plantin school book, you actually hold the binding to the left hand side and it will show you what way an image will cut. Now this image will come in, here, and we move it around, it'll move proportionately to each other because we've got it in lock. Every program that you get will have a lock and an unlock, so it's proportion or unproportion. So the proportion is locked, right, and the proportion is unlocked. It can go any which way, and you can use your eye to determine what you want to do. But for the purpose of using the cartridges only, everything is proportioned within the expression. So you can't not have control over it. But what you do with the images is it's measured by the highest point to the lowest point. And in this case, when you turn the handbook around, you're actually looking at it like that. And you might think that the highest point is from there to there once you turn the handbook around. And I'll do a video of what I mean by this. So, like I said, you're holding your handbook in portrait, but in actual fact it'll cut like this. So you need to work out the size with the height, which is the right way around. So just pretend it's the right way around. This is the highest. So even if we put that at 4, and that'll move proportionately to 4 inches there. Now the problem there is the height is 4 inches. However, the width is about 12 inches. So that's going to be very, very big. So you've got that in comparison to something that's a bit skinnier, like this leaf. This leaf is skinny. So let's move it up there to the 4, and we will change its size to 4 inches high, like we did with the buildings. And you will see that the width is nowhere as bad as the buildings. So this is what you've got to watch in the handbooks. Get used to what way they cut, and always measure the highest to the lowest, or lowest to highest. So that's measured from the stem to the tip of the leaf. That's from the steeple to the ground. I hope that makes sense, because it is one of the most important things that you're going to need to remember. Okay, so this is a teaching video, so I'm going to go through the process, and I'll probably do this in all the other videos. I have a nice sticky mat. I'm going to put in a piece of cardstock and use a brayer and make sure it's stuck down properly. None of this taping up on the side business. Taping up on the side does nothing to help when an image is being cut in the middle. It'll lift up and wreck everything. Ask me how I know. You are going to put the paper up where the guide is, and you are going to hold it up just against it. You only need one hand, and then you press. Let me bring this closer to you. You've seen that part. Let's bring this machine so you can see it's turned on. So you're holding your mat, and then you load the mat. Okay, so I'm going to select the A. I'll keep it with the A. Okay, so I'll do a regular one like you would. Let's make it 3. What I want to do is I'll measure this paper. It's about 3 1/4 inches. So let's make it the real, so it's not real dial size, it's off, so everything's off. So we're starting, we just come in, we've put our paper, and we're going to go with the little A and just press A. We're changing it at 3 inches. Now, the older Cricut machines will cut vertically. You can cut horizontally if you put portrait in. Another way of knowing how it will fit is you have measured the top to the bottom, so it's going to be under. Even though we've got 3 inches here, it is going to be under that because it's proportionate to the J that I explained at the beginning of the book. What way will it cut? Now, turn your book around to the vertical as if you were reading a book. We go from left to right, and the binding is on the left-hand side. So if you didn't know, it is going to cut like that. So the A is going to be in that direction, and the height is this direction. So I've got it at 3. The paper's 3 1/4, so it should fit nicely. So I've selected the A and I'm going to cut. Check your settings. My blade, I don't think I ever move it off, but it's on 6. I do when I'm doing vinyl. It is on 6 and my pressure is on maximum. My blade is not brand new, but it's still nice and sharp. The more you use cardstock, and thicker cardstock's a thicker material, the more you will blunt the blade. So I'm going to cut that. Now without unloading it, what I want to do is do the real dial size. So I'm going to select real dial size, keep it on 3, and I want to show you the difference, and then press that A again. Okay, so we're going to unload the mat. Take the paper off and see how it's cut. It is cut the same direction as what you see in the book. So that's the difference between your regular and your real dial size. Before I go, let's just recap what I was trying to say. And I've done a few examples. So in Birthday Bash, I've got that the shape, it's a shapes card. So the binding, because the Cricut cuts vertically, we'll look at it, we'll peruse the book and look at the images, and then we'll ascertain the highest to the lowest point. So you might want that image to be at 3 inches. And I mean, if you're good at visualizing how big you want something to be, you might want to put that on a card, and you might want that feature to be no bigger than 3 inches. So it's going to be from the highest point to the lowest point, whichever way it goes, and they're all different. So we did the hippo. So I cut the hippo at 4 inches, and I just drew some lines there so you could see. So that's a 4 inch, and her lowest point was down here at the feet. Here's my pointing tool. Hippo's feet to the tip of the nose. So it looks a bit straighter there, but you'll see, so in the Birthday Bash, the A is the tallest feature for the fonts, not for the images. So the size for your images will be based on the highest point to the lowest point. So when you see a wide one, see how much different wider that is to that. So let's move on to Kate's ABCs. Once again, it's a shape cartridge, and the book binding to the left. Interesting. Book binding to the left for direction of cut. Whereas the shape, that's a shape card, it's to the right. Mickey and Friends is to the right. I'll have to look at that one again. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that it is binding is to the left. We're looking at it that way, but when we're looking at it first and perusing the book, we're holding it in landscape position because we're looking at it. And we'll turn it around and we'll look at it. And we'll turn it around, right? So on and so forth. But when it comes to working out you know, do we put that size cardstock down? Do we put this size cardstock down? You would then turn it around, and because the machine cuts from top to bottom and not from left to right, if we had that, we would put this down the right hand side. And again, I'm going to sound confusing, so it's a matter of perusing, looking at which way it goes, and then putting the cardstock down in that direction. Watching out for your width, skinny to wide. So these are both cut at, actually this one's cut at 3 3/4, but Mickey's cut at 4 inches. Now this is quite a good example. So I looked for Mickey in the handbook, and I put the binding to the right, and Mickey cut that way. So if I was to put my cardstock on my mat, it would go that way, because Mickey's going to cut this way. Sorry, confusing, I know. But I'll help you with it as we go along. But looking at Mickey, he's skinny, so his highest point to his lowest point is 4 inches, no matter what. Pluto is positioned across that way, so the highest point for Pluto is from there to there. Turning the binding around that way, so it is 4 inches there, but by the time it cuts in proportion to fit the 4 inches, it's about that wide, which is about 7.5 inches wide, and that was cut smaller at 3 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Let's pick up about size as we go along. I'm sorry if I confused you, which I'm sure I did, but trust me, it took just as long to try and film, to try and explain what I was trying to explain. So I hope that helps you. Stay tuned for the next video. So don't forget to like, share, and definitely subscribe, and push that bell so that so you know that when I'm about to post a new one for you. But you'll know that if you're in the group, anywho, because I'll let you know by giving you a link to the tutorial. So bye for now.